again.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. It's a pleasure to call the meeting to order. Thank you for being at Venice Springs State Park. What a beautiful place. And what a great tour we had yesterday. Bruce, Mike, Bruce, Bill, Ben. Thank you guys. Jason, for the tour. Seeing what's there, what we need to do. Big, big commitment, huge expenditure. Has to be done. I think you have the support of the commission when we decide the direction that we're going. If you have the support of the commission, we'll make a decision. Am I correct on that, gentlemen?
Yes, sir. Sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Madam Chair, you are first on the agenda.
Good morning again, commissioners and guests and team members. Doesn't feel like it's been that long since we last met. We are quickly and continue to make our way through 2020, and I think you saw some examples yesterday of just how busy our staff have been. And I think this is the most, I'm not prepared for that presentation. Bruce, you want to show? We can tag team.
We can start over.
I can come up with something.
Just so he took me down for a field trip. All right, Alan. He asked me how I got that picture. Oh. I said, you took me down for a field trip.
We're going to get you guys out and do some stuff.
I told him it took me 2 hours to reel it in.
We kept putting. We're waiting for a call. One thing I would like to do, when he's going to be down in that southeast Missouri,
That's the representation.
take him to grab for a senator.
All right, that's it right
Thank you.
there. Thank you so much, Alan. So back to it. COVID-19, and then the COVID update. Operating under the current conditions remains challenging for us as it impacts many of our day-to-day operations as a way to deliver conservation services to the public. Thank you to all of the additional precautions that staff have taken, maintaining social distancing, practicing routine hygiene, working remotely, limiting in-person meetings, and wearing face coverings. So as it relates to voluntary sampling, in an abundance of caution, we've shifted from mandatory sampling requirements, thank you Commission for your direction on that, for chronic wasting disease, to voluntary sampling in 30 counties during the opening weekend of the November firearms portion of the deer season. The change was prompted by ongoing cases and public health concerns in Missouri regarding COVID-19. While CW sampling is no longer required November 14 and 15 for the 30 counties in the CWD management zone, NDC's 71 CWD sampling stations located throughout the zone will remain open, and we are encouraging hunters to have their deer sampled for CW Day on the day of harvest. We've talked in the past that will also be impacting our waterfowl draws, and so earlier this year the department made the decision to modify the 2021 waterfowl managed hunt process to assure safety of hunters and staff during the pandemic. So throughout this entire season, hunters will be asked to follow precautionary guidelines to assure the safety of everyone at the conservation areas during the morning draw. Each conservation area's procedural level is based upon input from the county health department and the status of COVID-19 cases in that particular county. The guidelines range from red level, which is the most restrictive, to green level, which is the least restrictive. So thank you to staff for putting together that new process. A quick archery season update. Missouri's archery deer and turkey season started September the 15th. This year marks the 76th year of archery deer hunting in Missouri. As we witnessed during the spring hunting season, COVID is not keeping archers out of the woods this fall. As of Monday, hunters had harvested 21,366 deer, nearly 1,000 turkey. I'm still working on that count personally. Have not yet had success. But anyway, As a reminder, we are asking Missouri turkey hunters to save and share feathers from birds they harvest this fall for part of a new research project to help improve wild turkey management in Missouri. MDC will send participating hunters materials needed to submit feathers, including a postage paid envelope for feather submissions. The materials will contain instructions about which feathers to submit and return in the postage paid envelope. Participating hunters will also need to include the telecheck ID number for the harvested bird to help staff determine the county from which the bird was taken. So we're looking at age and gender and those sorts of things related to this new research project. So if I get a turkey, I'll submit it. Okay? Yeah. All right. After a month of deer and turkey season, we now have enough data to see our usage of the Missouri Hunting app and that it is trending, that we're continuing a steady increase in people utilizing the Mohannon application. The November firearms portion tends to have a slightly lesser usage of the app at this point, so the chart shown here has been filtered to display just the early archery season to give a more accurate comparison from previous years. So after the firearm season, we'll have the majority of our data for the year, and we'll be able to compare that growth as well. It's important to note that our system stopped tracking live operator calls in 2019. Those calls are now counted as web checks, shown in the teal color toward the bottom of the chart. So the total number of web checks is decreasing, while obviously the use of the Mohannon app is increasing. Our entire telecheck team has done a fantastic job continually adding popular features and quickly solving any issues that may arise. So a special kudos goes to Casey Keister, Lisa Lucas, and Mark Ashcraft for their dedicated work to make this project such a success. As of October 18, there have been 69,144 applications for no-cost landowner permits. Staff are prepared for the expected influx of last-minute applications as firearm deer season approaches. Again, a huge thank you to those staff who have stepped up to help with the call center, as customer service is a critical component to helping hunters enjoy their time afield. In addition to the nearly 70,000 no-cost landowner permits that have been obtained as of October 18th, we have issued 246,383 deer permits, up 29.8% from 2019, and 11,054 turkey permits, up 32.04% from the previous year. So folks are getting outside. I mentioned it before, but there are certainly some silver linings that have come along with the pandemic, and just it's very encouraging to see the increase in the number of people enjoying the outdoors. As an example, we're down here at Bennett Springs State Park in the month of September, saw more record daily trout tag sales. Compared to September of 19, September of 20 saw an increase of 16% here at Bennett Springs, 20% increase at Roaring River State Park, 12% increase at Montauk, and 35% increase at Merrimack Springs. Staff are busy preparing for fall firearms season. Our goal is to make our regional offices and call center support available to assist hunters during opening weekends. So similar to the last couple of years, if regional offices are not closed to the public due to COVID, we are asking regions to maintain open public hours for that first day, Saturday, November 14th. If a regional office is closed to the public for reasons of COVID, but open to staff, we'll maintain a crew to answer local public calls on that day. If your regional office is closed to the public and staff due to COVID, no action is necessary, and all offices will be closed on that same day. A few highlights from the national level. In September, many staff participated in the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies' 110th annual meeting, with all 50 states and most of the Canadian provinces attending. Of course, this year's, for the first time, meeting was held virtually, still more than 1,200 resource professionals registered. We enjoyed hearing from a great panel of speakers during the plenary session focused on conservation in the age of coronavirus, social pandemics, and cultural pandemics. I also had the privilege of accepting the nomination. Thank you, commissioners, for your support of my ability to do that, and look forward to this next year of serving in this position at the national level. But I also want to thank the staff that are also serving as chairs and co-chairs of many of the AQUA committees and many others that are actively involved in supporting the association and fostering a spirit of collaboration with our sister states and Canadian provinces. So October has been a busy month. Besides the commission meeting this week and last week, we hosted our 4th annual Missouri Conservation Partners Roundtable, and participants included a diverse array of partners including agriculture, local governments, conservation organizations, Missouri businesses, and universities. The first ever virtual format for this roundtable allowed us to expand our registration, and this year we welcomed a record 696 registrants. So thank you, commissioners who were able to at least participate in a portion of the Partners Roundtable last week. We very much appreciate that, and we were delighted to have as our keynote Simon Roosevelt, great-great-grandson of President Teddy Roosevelt, but really had a great lineup and all the plenary panelists. But a huge thank you to our MDC team who put this together, from the planning committee, really headed up by Amy Beekler, to all of our regional administrators who participated in virtual meetings of their own, to each of our branch chiefs who also participated in coffee chats with many of their partners. The topics range from climate change to water quality to grazing practices and more. And so it was recorded, so if you missed any of the sessions and would like to see the recording, we can certainly make that available. And as part of this annual meeting and annual roundtable, we began several years ago by initiating Conservation Partner Awards in 3 different categories. And so this was a time to, virtually this year, that we recognized a few of our outstanding partners. The 3 categories, the first one is the Conservation Impact Award. And this award is given to the nominee who best demonstrates a commitment and ongoing positive impact to the health of Missouri's land, water, forests, and the sustainability of all fish and wildlife. And this was awarded to Pheasants Forever, Inc., Go Forever, and the Missouri Prairie Foundation. Second, the Conservation Innovation Award. This award is given to the nominee who best demonstrates a commitment to innovation, including improving the business of conservation through their support of customer service, continuous improvement, and/or employee development initiatives. This was awarded to Sovereign Sportsman Solution, also known as S3. Finally, the Conservation Intersection Award. This award is given to the nominee who best demonstrates a commitment to providing that critical conservation intersection where Missourians have places to go to enjoy nature and understand the value of nature in their lives. This year it was awarded to the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And we're not done yet with this month. Next week, we host the Southeastern Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies' 74th annual conference, first time virtually. We were to host it in Springfield. The planning committee has a star-studded lineup with Mr. Bruce Drecktraw leading the way, Don Henderson and others. So thank you for that, Bruce, Don, and others. But we're going to be hosting it virtually October 26th through the 28th. You can see that the theme is Designed for the Future, Connect, Cultivate, and Care. Another star-studded plenary lineup, including former Mizzou coach Gary Pinkel. So already 500 registered, and I'm guessing there will be a lot more registered for that day. But commissioners, if you would like to get on to attend any part of that, let us know, and we will make sure that happens. We're excited to see our community conservation efforts taking root in Kansas City. MDC recently partnered with KC Parks and Recreation and local residents to install native plants at Montgomery Park. This partnership is a wonderful example of working with the local community as residents were involved in everything from plant selection and design, the actual planting. We hope this will be the first of many other conversions to native plants at the entrance to city parks in the Kansas City area. And just this week, Bill White and Jason Jensen traveled to Kansas City to continue discussions on converting abandoned lots to pollinator plants. So more to come on this growing partnership. Well, just create your own image there. I'm not sure where a picture went, but we talked a little bit about SFI certification. Yesterday, we have worked to successfully maintain our certification by the Sustainable Forestry Initiative, or SFI, Forest Management Standard for 658,348 acres of conservation land. The certification follows an annual audit of MDC forestry practices for those lands. MDC has maintained this certification since 2017, with annual audits confirming its forest management practices continue to meet this SFI standard. SFI is one of the world's most recognized independent third party for forest management certification standards. And certification brings with it assurances of responsible practices across the forest product supply chain. Got to talk about elk. Commissioners, the Scott County woman, I believe you're aware, has been charged with illegally shooting a cow elk in Carter County in November 2019 and abandoning the carcass with no meat or other parts of the animal taken. Based on lengthy investigation conservation agents, Deborah Flanagan of Chaffee was charged with shooting a cow elk in Carter County on November 18, 2019. We've issued citations to Flanagan for the illegal take of a protected species and wanton waste or abandonment of wildlife parks. We're grateful to the agents involved in this case for their work in protecting the elk herd in Missouri and doing their part to help us maintain the newly established elk season. And speaking of that, I wanted to provide an update on the opening weekend of the archery elk season portion, which occurred last weekend. Although no elk were harvested during the opening weekend, 2 of our 5 hunters did report close interactions. One hunter had a 4x5 come within 63 yards. Another called in a 5x5 3 different times, as close as 35 yards, but decided to pass.
Good for him. Good.
Yeah. At least they had interaction. It's all about the interaction. All right, so there's always great stories to tell of our many staff, but some of you may have heard recently about a felony arrest
I may have.
made by conservation agent Rachel Webster in Jackson County. And think about this. This young woman just graduated in her last agent training class. All right, so she hasn't been an agent that long. She started out a routine day one Monday morning, I don't know now, 3 weeks ago maybe, by going by the Share the Harvest processor in Jackson County. And after leaving the processor, that day became anything but routine. She witnessed a pedestrian shoot at someone inside a vehicle that was pulled over in Raytown. She called for backup, but then went into pursuing the fleeing suspect. She gained control of him at gunpoint. She handcuffed him. She removed the gun from him. And then, when reinforcements arrived, she turned him over to Raytown PD. And she commented that her intensive agent training kicks in during a situation like this, and that reactions are almost automatic. But way to go, Agent Webster.
That's a heck of a start. She didn't spill her coffee, did she?
It sounded like it was a pretty automatic reaction. So, boy, I feel sorry for the fella. Not really. But anyway, it's just incredibly impressive. And we had 2 agents, which even last week helped with Missouri River to a boat right going under. And so, always great stories to tell there. And enforcing Missouri's fish and game laws and serving the public in a multitude of conservation-oriented ways has earned Conservation Agent Corporal Will Carr recognition at the regional, state, and national levels. Jasper County Agent Will Carr, who's in the center there, kind of the orange shirt, received MDC Southwest Regional Outstanding Agent of the Year. Then he received the Missouri Outstanding Agent of the Year. And then he received the Safari Club International Wildlife Officer of the Year. Also picture Captain Jason Dickey left, who supervises the agents in the Southwest region, and Lieutenant Scott Berger on the right. All three awards, which were presented to Carr in September, honor outstanding achievements in the areas of the enforcement of fish and game laws, coupled with work in the areas of conservation education and community relations. Agent Carr has been with MDC since 2005. Speaking of award winning, our very own Alan Leary recently joined the ranks of individuals recognized as the Midwestern Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies Wildlife Biologist of the Year. This award is given to select individuals who have shown an unparalleled initiative towards the better understanding of wildlife and conservation. You know, Alan Leary, Wildlife Management Coordinator, has been heavily involved in the Feral Hog Elimination Partnership, in Wildlife Damage Program, and the Bear Aware Program, so we are very grateful for his efforts in these important department programs. We continue on with award winning. Every year we submit entries for the National Association of Conservation Information Awards, also known as ACI, where we compete against other state fish and wildlife and forest communication professionals. There are multiple award categories, including audio programs, social media, magazine, photography, video, communications, etc. Although ACI canceled their national conference this year due to COVID, they did host a virtual awards presentation to announce the winners. We took home an outstanding 16 awards this year in the categories mentioned on this slide. So congratulations to ACI.
That's neat.
Wonderful.
I also want to welcome Chris Kennedy, who has been part of the MDC family for more than 25 years, but he recently accepted a new role as part of the new organizational structure as Assistant to the Director for Inclusion and Diversity. Chris, if you don't know him, you certainly will know him shortly, but I think many of the commissioners, or at least staff, are certainly aware of Chris and his long history here. He's a native Missourian who's assisted MDC with its workforce diversity initiatives for recruitment, diversity, training, mentoring, outreach initiatives, and internship programs. He was a recent participant in the Missouri Way Leadership Academy, where he received intensive leadership and team building training. During the academy, he served on a project team that focused on cultivating inclusion and diversity within Missouri state government. I will tell you, since then, he has been called upon regularly to meet with the governor now several times, but also other state agencies, and discussing their inclusion and diversity efforts. So it is just a huge honor to have Chris in this new role, where he'll be primarily focused on helping us move forward with an internal perspective on how, as a culture, we can be more inclusive. And I have to give a shout out, if only she will look up to look at the slides. To Rhonda Nichols. Could not conclude this report, members of the commission, without taking just a moment to recognize this spectacular professional, to thank her for her dedication to the agency, to the commission, to the citizens, and to me personally. Congratulations on your retirement. You will be missed. Delighted to have Ms. Nicole Balmer join us in this role as Secretary to the Commission and to the Director. But congrats to Ms. Naples. We'd like to end with just a few little historical notes, just to remind you that this conservation story has been a long and rich one. In October 1950, MDC purchased Duck Creek Conservation Area in order to establish a waterfowl hunting area in conjunction with Mingo National Wildlife Refuge. More recently, the area was one of several included as part of MDC's Golden Anniversary Wetlands Initiative, with aging infrastructure undergoing major renovations, which this commission is aware of. How about in October 1980, the commission then endorsed the amendment to provide for payment in lieu of taxes, or PILT payments, and ordered widespread publicity about those payments. That arrangement remains in place today, providing financial resources for Missouri's counties. 20 years ago, 1,300, 38 hunters donated more than 49,000 pounds of venison. Where do you think we are today? By hunters agreeing to pay it forward by donating fresh venison as hunters. This past year, 348,535 pounds were donated. We have come a long way with that program, in which more than 4.3 million pounds of that fresh protein have been donated since the program began. It's all those little things, right, Aaron, that we do today that add up to making conservation happen in big ways. And I know we're going to talk about them here more, but I just had to give a shout out to the guests in the room, Tom and Kathy Ailey of Taney County, on being the latest recipients of the MDC Master Conservationist Award. You are the 63rd and 64th. You guys decide which is which. Which was first presented in 1942. I will say, and I know you're going to share more of the details about the Aileys, but the Master Conservationist Award honors living or deceased citizen conservationists or former deceased commissioners and employees of conservation-related agencies, universities, or organizations who have made substantial and lasting contributions to the state's fisheries, forestry, and wildlife resources, including conservation law enforcement and conservation education-related activities. Congratulations. More to come. So we often say we have a world-class staff working at a world-class agency. My hope is that we recognize just how hard our dedicated staff are working to make a difference every day in conservation and our many partners as well. So we saw a lot of awards. We're going to recognize significant partners. It takes all of us, including a world-class commission.
Thank you.
So thank you for your service. And with that, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, unless there are questions, that is my presentation.
Thank you. Fellow commissioners, any questions? Thank you. Peter. Have a seat.
Now we can talk about Coldwater Hatcheries.
Have a seat.
Huh?
I really like that history now.
Thanks, I love that too.
Greetings on this beautiful yet chilly October morning from a suburban location outside of the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. My name is Ron Reagan. I'm the Executive Director of the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies, and I simply am reaching out to say thank you to the Commission for sharing your very capable leader, Sarah Parker Polley, with the association in the coming year as its president. Sarah will be the first ever female president of the association, dating back to its founding in 1902. I can state without reservation that the association's members, its partners, and others in the greater conservation family are delighted to have her at the helm in the coming year. Sarah has clearly acquitted herself as a tremendous, visionary, passionate leader, one who wants to bring conservation messaging to all Americans, and we look forward to her doing that very thing as the association president. Opportunities abound to tell a conservation story, to tell about the important work of state, provincial, and territorial fish and wildlife agencies, to reach out with new, relevant messaging to new constituents in urban settings and throughout North America. I know for a fact that Sarah will do Missouri proud. She will do your commission proud. She will do the department proud. And thank you once again for the opportunity that we will have to work with her. All the best. Thanks again.
Very nice. Very nice.
You guys have been keeping secrets. That's not good.
Right. Oh, you didn't know about that.
Very nice.
Yeah, well done.
Very good.
Oh, that's nice.
Good report. Mike, you're up, sir.
We need to have a meeting. Consent calendar.
Oh, consent calendar.
Let's see.
We need to approve
This
some
is the
minutes.
consent calendar. Anyone want to remove anything from it?
No, sir.
Okay, I'd like to have a motion to approve it.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Motion made, seconded, discussion, none. All in favor, aye. Opposed, likewise, motion carries. Thank you very much. Mike, now you're up.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, Director Polly. You may be relieved to know today there are no regulation-related action items.
The record, Michael.
I thought that might be good news.
Okay, thanks for your report.
Motion to accept.
Action item. The Regulations Committee met on September 10th, 2020, to review and discuss initial recommendations from protection grants for the following proposed regulation considerations. Establish a wildlife exhibitor permit to allow institutions to hold live native species for educational purposes. Phase out Class 2 breeder permits. Class 2 wildlife includes mountain lions, mountain lion hybrids, wolves, wolf hybrids, black bears, black bear hybrids, and venomous snakes. And remove permit and confinement standards for wolf hybrids. And also to establish requirements for entry of wildlife into Missouri. These proposed regulations generated considerable discussion, as you can imagine. It was determined by the committee to refine the proposals based on the thoughtful conversation which occurred, and to bring final recommendations forward at the November 10th Regulations Committee meeting. Commissioners, since my last Regulations Committee report, citizens have provided input on various regulations. A summary of comments received are included in my formal report, being on page 2. Two topics in particular are noteworthy. A recent rule defining bighead carp, silver carp, grass carp, and common carp as invasive fish and prohibiting their use as live bait has generated comments from both anglers and aquaculturalists. Most are supportive of the rule in general, but oppose the inclusion of common carp in the definition of invasive fish. A petition to remove common carp from this definition and allow their use as live bait was submitted to the department with over 1,000 signatures. The Regulations Committee will review this rule at their next meeting and anticipate recommending the removal of common carp from the definition of invasive fish. Another recent regulation change under review is 10-10.744, commercial deer processing, permit privileges and requirements. An unintentional consequence of this change, which was designed to ensure game processors disposed of carcasses in properly permitted landfills, prohibits deer processors from selling deer hides. The Regulation Committee is drafting new language to correct this unintended impact. Commissioners, you may recall each state agency is required by state statute to conduct a thorough review of its regulations every 5 years to determine if they remain relevant and necessary. Protection Field Chief Travis McLean and the Wildlife Code Subcommittee have been tasked to consider the continued relevance of each rule, review citizen comments with the mandatory 60-day public comment period, which was July 1st through August 31st, and prepare a justification for continued enforcement. The subcommittee will attend the November 10th Regulations Committee meeting to discuss the assignment and identify initial steps for moving forward. Travis McLean will provide a progress report to the Regulations Committee at his first meeting in 2021 on January 4th, and periodic updates in the following months. The Commission will be asked to approve the final report at their meeting in late May of 2021. Following that vote, the report will be submitted to the Joint Committee of Administrative Rules, commonly known as JCAR, by the June 30, 2021 deadline. The next meeting for the Regulations Committee is scheduled for November 10th of this year. And Mr. Chairman, unless you or members of the Commission have questions, This concludes the shortest regulation before that.
Fellow commissioners, any questions?
Just had one quick question. Mike, you and I talked about this. The letter from Steve Larkin on the CWD, or in your response to him, you said that the Regulations Committee was going to look at that again.
Yes.
I mean, can you kind of tell us what your thoughts or
Well,
the input?
the specific letter Mr. Larkin was, his specific issues were related to the fact that in our CWD core area, for the last several years, we've been giving landowners 5 acres or more CWD permits to harvest additional animals off their property because we wanted to reduce prevalence of disease in those areas by reducing population and possibly eliminating infected animals that way. With the new landowner change that occurred last year, going from 5 to 20 acres to qualify, staff had a long discussion about it and decided that to keep the rules simple, that we would move everything to the 20-acre threshold. Mr. Larkin has brought up the issue, and justifiably so, that if we really want disease management to remove as many animals out of those core areas as possible, that this is counterproductive. So we are going to revisit that issue related to the 20-acre minimum and see about possibly going back to 5 for those core areas. And he's got absolutely legitimate points from a disease standpoint. The reason staff decided to do it initially was for trying to keep the regulations simple in terms of what the definition of qualifying landowner is. But now that we're into that, we may be able to look at that rule again and maybe still provide that opportunity for smaller landowners to help us manage disease in core areas.
So going back to 20 acres instead of 5, is that what you're?
We went from 5 to 20 now.
Yeah.
So we've excluded a lot. So now we're talking about in those core areas, can we go back and allow landowners of 5 or more to get those CWD tags?
Wouldn't that be problematic to have part of the state at 20 and part at 5?
It will make things very complicated to go that route.
Yeah.
But these are specific tags just for that use, and so you can't just go get them. They work through a process with our agency directly to get in that group so that you can acquire them. So we do know who those individuals are, and so it's a little different than going statewide.
Okay.
We would reach out to those individuals directly, as we always have, and say, you are available, you can acquire these permits if you would like. So normally it will complicate things, especially for our agents, but it is manageable. So the real question is, are we gaining enough from that from a disease perspective to justify that increased staff workload and complicated walk, which is less dear in those CWD core areas.
Overall, what do you feel about the feedback we've gotten, in the court, since we've changed the rule going from 5 to 20, or 20 to 5, excuse me?
We had quite a bit of discussion before it actually was implemented. Since that time, we've had some discussion from the public, some input. I would say, and Aaron, jump in here because you've heard quite a bit of it too, probably significantly less than I would have anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
We are still a little, I don't know what the right word is. At this point, we have around 36% of all the landowners that qualified for free privileges to deer hunt. Only about 36% of those folks who have gotten permits last year have actually worked through the landowner application process for deer hunting in November. A little concerned about, has everybody read the information we've sent them? Is everybody up to speed, or are we going to see a significant issues in the last week leading up to farm deer season of people who are not going to be able to get their land on the deer tags because they haven't put in the application? I don't have anything to base that on other than I'm just concerned because we've only seen 36%.
Well, how does it compare? Like this year, we've had 69,000 plus permits issued landowner. How does that compare to last year when it was 5 acres?
Well, like I said, at this point, it's only been 36% of people that got tags who went through that process. But we have looked at what happened during spring turkey season, which is kind of an indicator, I'm hoping, as to the portion of people who, in 2019, had landowner privileges for spring turkey, but then went through the application process to get their spring turkey permits for 2020, and that was closer to 50%. And the reality is we had almost no negative feedback from the public right there during spring turkey season. So if that's an indicator, we're not that far off. By another week or two, we may be close to the 50%, which may be about what we expect.
And commissioners, remember that we all procrastinate, and the majority of our firearm deer permits will occur that Tuesday through Friday before the season opener. So staff are ramping up to provide help desk service to help landowners, but to also help individuals with buying permits at the last minute. So
Did I hear?
Saying this time last year, that you were measuring the 36% at that point last year, weren't you?
No, what I'm saying is 36% of all the people who acquired landowner hunting firearm deer permits last year, only 36% of those people have been through the application process so far. So there's a significant...
So there's still room for them.
Oh, there's still time and room, but that is a lot of people. And
Yeah.
Okay, but was that 69,000 permits, landowner permits issued?
I don't know.
I thought I heard that.
Yeah,
And
69,000.
246,000
Overall, I
plus
thought that was, hold on.
deer permits so far.
I think
This
that's
year?
archery permits, is that
I think
correct?
that's archery,
I think that was how many archery permits we issued this year.
What's that?
the 69,000.
The 69,000. That's landowner permits, though.
Those are just archery permits.
Archery.
I thought her report, she said 69,000 landowner permits.
Permits usually gives us a update on Monday morning, so we can be happy to provide you those.
Would you please do that?
The reality is...
Not to belabor the point, but
What we're
would you?
seeing is that there were a lot of people out there, we knew there were quite a few who, one person went in and got the permits, but they got them for every member of the family. The reality is most of those family members never utilized them, but they were still on our rolls as having landowner privileges. Now, with the application process, a lot of those folks who were never using them in the first place are not filling out their application.
Can we get an update?
Yes.
Would you send the commissioners an update?
Yeah,
Please, thank you.
yes, I did say that. In addition to the nearly 70,000 no-cost landowner permits that have been obtained as of October 18th.
There you go.
Yeah,
I didn't think I heard it wrong.
yeah.
I was just curious, just so I understand, the CWD permits that we issue for those, I mean, can they use any weapon any time, or how are they utilized, Mike?
I'd have to check on that, but I think they've got to use the methods during the season that they're hunting.
Okay, so, I mean, it's just an extra permit.
It's
They can
extra permits.
harvest with
Yeah.
a bow or during gun season or
during gun
whatever,
season.
but it has to be during those seasons,
Yeah.
so, okay.
Any other
Yeah.
questions?
Oh, and the landowner in those cases can assign those tags. So if you know I'm coming to your property, you have access to those CWD permits, you can, through our system, say, give my cover to those permits, and I can acquire those permits.
So I'm just curious, just trying to learn about it. It's not in my area, so I don't see it, but, I mean, if you really want them to harvest the deer, I mean, why don't we let them harvest them with whatever method they wanted to?
That is, really would be the enforcement issue on it. Because then where would it, now you're starting to move into where you're taking the animals, and our enforcement folks have animals that are harvested with firearms during archery season, and it would just, it'd be an enforcement.
But some of our culling things that we do, we do that, don't we? I mean,
We do that later.
We do that.
Yeah.
later, okay.
Yeah, we do that after season.
We can talk about it later. I'm just curious, I just want to make sure I understood if I got asked.
Any other questions of Mike? Mike, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
We look forward.
Thanks, Mike.
Oh,
I will, if it's okay with the chair, I'll introduce our next speaker.
go ahead.
Commissioners, it's my pleasure to introduce the next speaker, Mr. Bruce Grifka. Graduated from the University of Missouri with a degree in Fish and Wildlife Management. And began his career in Missouri Parks Conservation at the Blind Pony Fish Hatchery in 1994. While there, he held the position of aquaculture specialist, assistant hatchery manager, and hatchery manager. Bruce moved to central office as Fisheries Field Operations Chief for the Ozark Unit in 2013. His responsibilities included overseeing fish and aquatic resource management for the department's Southwest, Ozark, Southeast, and St. Louis regions, along with fish production at the department's 5 trout hatcheries and 1 warm water hatchery. Bruce currently serves as Fisheries Section Chief in the statewide resource management branch. In this role, he oversees management of the department's 4 warm water hatcheries and 5 cold water hatcheries, administration of the department's Community Assistance Program, or CAP, and provides program guidance to fisheries management biologists across the state. With that, Bruce, I'll turn the podium over to you.
Welcome, Bruce. Good morning.
Hello, Bruce. Welcome, Bruce.
Thank you for a good tour.
Yesterday, we certainly appreciate you all being
You
here.
did a great job.
This is
You did super.
it's an important project for us, and kind of as we're going to show walk through it here for you, kind of important to our whole system as we move forward. So, I think we kind of got a snapshot of some of these pictures early on. Commissioner Orson had the opportunity to get out with some of our
It took me
staff.
about an hour to get in. That's it.
That fish.
Yeah. I had to work him real good.
And that was a double, right?
How much did it weigh?
Yeah. It was a big fish. And the longer you push it out, the bigger it gets. Oh, yeah.
That's probably going to be bigger as the meeting goes on.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, the guy in the picture with you, he caught one as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's John Ackerson. He's our.
So you didn't catch both of those. He caught one, huh? Please go ahead.
Obviously, here we're at Venice, so the focus here is trout and our cold water system. But as we think the hatchery system, we want to make sure we realize it is a true system, both on the warm and the cold water side. We have the 5 cold water hatcheries, the Venice Spring, Roaring River, Montauk, Merrimack, and Shepherd. And on the warm water side, we obviously have Wells County, Honeywell, Chesapeake, and Black Pony. So they're obviously very different by the species they raise, but they also cross over a lot. When we do our big harvest opportunities and stuff across the state, whether it's catfish or even down here to do trout, they all come together and work really well together, truly as a system. Primarily, we take advantage of equipment. We have a lot of wonderful hauling trucks now. It's changed greatly. As Mike mentioned, I started in 1994. Our hauling fleet looks vastly different. We can get done in a day or so that would take us 2 or 3 days to do in the past. So it's really a real blessing for our whole system. When we think about hatcheries, obviously we think about why do we need trout hatcheries, kind of going back to the whole hatchery system theme. This really kind of goes in the warm and cold water, but we want to enhance and diversify trout fishing opportunities. That could be said for catfish, whatever the other species we raise. We're going to continue stocking public waters around the state, provide specially sport fishing opportunities, primarily on the cold water side. When we think of our brown trout populations and the work we're doing there. Maintaining angling opportunities here in the parks, which obviously that's a very important thing for this area specifically. We have wonderful opportunities for outreach with our recruitment, retention, and reactivation of anglers across the state. And then also, we'll talk about we do a little endangered species production work at one of our hatcheries in particular. As we think back, we kind of talked about it a little bit yesterday. Trout hatcheries especially have been around for a long time in the state of Missouri, and trout fishing has been an important part of that. We kind of worked through some things. It says here in 26, the first trout opener was here at Venice Spring, which that was a long time ago. When we start really thinking about MDC's role, we really assumed responsibility in 1937 of the operation of Venice Springs, Roaring River, and Montauk hatcheries. Kind of continuing on through Shepherd of the Hills with the installation of the dam there at Table Rock. That hatchery came on in 1958 with the closure of that dam. 59, we which is another important trout park for us. And then in '59, we also began restoring the cold water fishery there at Taneycomo with stocking and trout. And we just kind of continue on. We added some wild trout management areas, obviously some urban areas we brought on in 1990. We actually started the urban program in St. Louis in 1969, I believe, with more of a catfish, but then in 1990 we were able to take advantage of bringing some trout. And we'll talk about that a little more later on. 2004, we started a lot of the renovations, some of what you saw here with some of the work that we've done here in the past few years here at Bennett. And then in 2007, kind of goes to the endangered species stuff that we talked about early on that I mentioned with the Ozark and Eastern Helmeted work that we're doing down at Shepherd. This just kind of shows you where the hatcheries are. Obviously, throughout the Ozarks, we need that cold water for the trout. Obviously, Taneycomo or Shepherd Hills is a little different. We utilize Table Rock Dam. I think the intake there is at 150 feet below the surface, so it's a long ways down for that. And then we also have wells and things there as well. So jumping right into some of these facilities, Shepherd Hills is obviously our biggest cold water facility. We do about 900,000 fish a year there between the rainbows and the browns, primarily the rainbows. Shepherd Hills is primarily responsible for stocking Taneycomo. That's their big responsibility there. We continue to work with our management biologists down there. We really looked at our populations of what we're stocking in the reservoir over the last few years. I know there for a while they were stocking well over 1 million fish a year, and then for a long time it was about 700,000. As we continue to do our annual samples, we really started seeing it was kind of a blessing in disguise, I guess. We had some impacts here with flooding and things at the hatchery, so we just did not have the fish. We had to reduce some stocking rates in Taneycomo. And then we started noticing as part of our samples that the quality of fish was improving. And so we worked with some angling groups and got some input and worked with our biologists. We've actually reduced the stocking to 560,000 a year now. He just did the sample again there at the end of August and was very pleased with how the rainbow were looking. The quality of fish has really improved. There's some private docks there up and down the lake that do a lot of, kind of like we do with our master angler certificates, but they get certificates of people that stay there at the at the resort, and they catch and release rainbows. In the normal month of June, I think, he would do 5 or 6. They have to be 20 inches or greater on the rainbows, and then they release them.
So that's a voluntary release? Okay.
Voluntary.
Neat.
And
That's
normally
great.
he does 5 or 6. I think this past year he did 80. He did about 80 certificates. So the quality of the fishery is really becoming involved. You may have heard there was a fairly large brown trout caught there recently, a couple of them actually, that is a triploid. It's a project we did a few years ago. We started in 2012 stocking triploids, and we last stocked them in 2015. We just kind of wanted to see what that would look like.
Sorry, stocking what?
Triploids. Diploids, like the fish here would all be diploids. They still reproduce. We can take the eggs from them.
Yeah.
Triploids, it's either done with pressure or temperature a lot of times, and it can change. It just modifies the egg to where they don't have sexual organs, but where they're not trying to put the weight into that. It puts it all into growth.
Okay.
And we can get tremendous growth out of it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the fish we caught were 40 pounds. I have a picture later on, and I think it was only like 8 years old, I believe. So it's something we're actually getting back into this year. We've already made the request to get the eggs from the hatchery, a state hatchery in West Virginia. It's a Crawford strain, which is a little different strain of brown trout. It's funny how these fish, it's no different than anything else we do, whether it's, you think about bird dogs or bucking bulls or anything like that, brown trout, there's always these strains that people want this quality or that trait, and fish are the same way. And so we do a lot of work with that, trying to get the best strains for the opportunities we have available. But this has been a real economic driver for the region. We have people coming from all over the country to fish here. In fact, where we get the eggs from in West Virginia, as soon as I think it was Frank was the first one that they caught and they named and they released him. As soon as that news release went out, the people in West Virginia are getting calls saying, I want what Missouri gets. And he's very cautious, and he's right. Taneycomo is a unique situation because he he can use that same triploid in other parts of the country, and they don't see the results. We are very fortunate for what we have.
And why is that?
I think it's just, it's the lake situation, it's the food base that's there, there's just, it's not like, you know, out here in the Niagara River or something like that, where it's a lot more controlled, I guess. So.
You said that, well, you said those were released in 2015, was
That's our last release.
how many releases of triploids have we had?
There was, like I said, the first one was only 2012, and so we just did a couple, 3 years there, just to kind of, we just wanted to try it. We did them all, we clipped them all, so we can tell when they're caught, we can tell if they're triploid or not, because we still were doing diploids as well.
Okay, and we released some in current, I believe, also, didn't we?
We have.
But not the same type of success there. So, I mean, you know, moving forward, we're going to dedicate that just to Taneycomo?
I think that would be the idea right now. It's something we continue to look at. We're always looking at and trying to evaluate our stocking program. But that primarily right now, I think that's where we're seeing our best success.
So how many fish are you anticipating releasing? I mean, you're getting the eggs, right, from West Virginia?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. We've kind of got a plan, and I'd have to go look at that plan again. I think we would do 5,000 triploid and then still continue to do some diploids as well. Because at Shepherd, we actually have a fish ladder where the brown trouts hopefully will jump up and then come back in, and we continue to do our spawning. So we kind of need to continue that program as well, so we can still have eggs and fish to put out.
So we're thinking 5,000 triploids a year, or every 3 years, or what do you think, Chris?
If I recall, we have been working through this, I believe it's every other year. Every other year we would stock triploids.
Okay. Yeah, I talked to Clint Hale about it. He was, you know, real excited about being able to move forward.
Well, I think it's a wonderful opportunity. I think it's really a great thing for all parties involved.
The news releases we get, I think the word, but I think is really positive for the planet.
Yeah, they spread all over. Very
Big
quickly.
time.
So, yeah.
Big time.
That's one good thing about social media.
Yeah. People
How
like
many
big
do we
fish.
get? Excuse me. Yeah.
No,
sorry,
that's fine.
Steve.
People just like big fish. I mean, that's pretty exciting. So.
How many do we get from Jopton or Neosho? I mean,
Their commitment is normally about 180,000 a year to go into Taneycomo.
that's nice operation.
National Fish Hatchery there.
And they're all rainbow, correct?
All rainbows, yes. Yep. Kind of going back to the endangered species, we mentioned hellbender production. That's something that kind of started there at Shepherd of the Hills. It's really kind of blossomed now into the St. Louis Zoo, as you all are aware, is very involved in that program as well. Shepherd continues to work with some eastern hellbender. Those are primarily done over at the zoo. Easterns are now in the process of becoming a federally listed species as well. So that's a lot of work. It's a lot of extra work we put on those guys, but I think they enjoy it. It's something a little different. It gives them an opportunity to learn about other species.
And they're all reared at Shepherd?
Yeah,
Okay.
the Easterns are. It's a small part of what we do there, but it's an important part of what we do. Montauk, primarily, it's one of our very important hatcheries. This one does between 350 and 400,000 fish a year to produce for us. About 200,000 are stocked there in the park itself. 100,000 or so go to other hatcheries. That's one thing about the cold waters. We keep talking, this is truly a system. When I came over from the warm water side, it just amazed me. We have quarterly meetings, and these guys will sit down and they'll be like, well, I've got space, I can do 4 inches, and they are constantly moving fish around to take best advantage of available space. And each hatchery has its own little areas where it exceeds expectations in a lot of ways from a production standpoint. Montauk also does a lot of the ribbon areas, our Current River, Level Point, Ruby Doo, Stone Mill, Little Tiny Rivers, the trout management areas that are very popular around the southern part of the state. One thing about Montauk, this is a hatchery that's really helped us out a lot of years. They continually produce. When we have our raceways, like anything else, you have a stocking capacity. It'd be so many pounds a gallon is ideal of the water in there. Related to flow through, but the water, kind of like we talked about yesterday, the water's constantly flowing through. Because of other things happening in the system, whether it's this one being down, part of our production, Roaring River being down, these other this facility, because of the dedicated staff and their skill levels, are able to produce, sometimes 150% capacity of what some of these racehorses should. And it's really a testament to the quality of staff throughout our hatchery system that are able to do these things. It makes me nervous because I know that we have so much inventory at one facility. We are one good flood away from being behind the 8 ball big time. Especially when we think about these fish take between 18 and 24 months to get the size to where we can stock them here in the park. So it's a long time commitment to these fish. Merrimack, this is the one we talked about early on. This is part of the James Foundation's agreement we have with them. This one is primarily, it is a rearing facility only, primarily because we have a copepod, a parasitic copepod issue there that we don't want to spread around. As I mentioned, they could stop for hatch fish here, grow them up to a certain size, ship them off to Shepherd or whatever. We can't do that there because we would be spreading them in copepods around the state. So once the fish hit the water there, they stay there. We've done some work in the past. Early on, we used brook trout as a kind of a biological filter to try to reduce the impact of the copepods. That was problematic because of some stocking concerns we had with the brook trout. Now we figured out we could use brown trout, and it works as well. And brown trout, then we can put them in the Merrimack River, right there in the Redribbon area, just outside the park. So it's pretty good for us in that regard. It's a fairly small facility. They raise about 125,000 trout a year that go in the park. Pretty small in the fact that we just have 5 pools there. But it's, like I said, it's very important. One thing I will mention on this one too, here recently in the last year or so, we've had some staff changeover. We did take that opportunity to kind of look at the system again and then decide. Before we had a manager at each one of these facilities, and currently what we've done is we've had one manager and then an assistant manager over Montauk and an assistant manager over Merrimack. And we just felt like that was the best use of staff, and we were able to reclassify some positions to be able to get them located to where we can increase efficiencies within the hatchery system. Roaring River, this is the one, we'll talk about it a little more here in a minute with some construction that we've been working on for quite a while here. This one does about 250,000 fish a year. As you can see there, they've got about 40 outside production raceways. They also do some of the ribbon areas, the trout management area stockings. One thing down here, they all do this. They all have wonderful kids' days, all the parks. They all have wonderful kids' days. They do veterans events. They do women's events. Roaring River is one, they do it. It's a big thing for them. A lot of times when they do their kids' events, they may have 2,000 people there. So it's a huge thing. Whether it's down there or here, these guys, I've heard some conversation earlier, these guys really are a great face for the department because some of the folks here at Tusk, everybody knows who the hatchery manager is here, and they all do it at the other parks as well. They do a wonderful, wonderful job on working with the public. You may think, well, these guys have been on production. What are they doing? We actually haul fish in there. Montauk and Shepherd Hills primarily are where they come from. We haul the 12 inchers in there. They've continued stocking right along, just as normal. They're just not producing the fish there. So we just have that extra travel time getting fish in and out. It's also provided them an opportunity to do some. It's funny at hatcheries, there's maintenance issues that always creep up that when it's full with water and fish, it's just hard to get them all done. So they really added an opportunity to take advantage of some of that. I won't say free time, but additional time to focus on these maintenance issues. The director mentioned the agent and her activities with the shooter earlier. I will mention here too, it's probably not a good segue, but earlier on this year we did have an opportunity. Each one of the hatcheries has an AED.
A what?
An AED, a defibrillator. And actually the good or bad, they had the opportunity to use theirs. There was a park goer that was jogging and went down in the park. DNR staff were there. They came, got the AED, and our staff were able to use it. And,
Super.
It was, the manager there told me, Paul Spurgeon, he told me it was amazing seeing somebody come back to life. So it really had an impact on him. And it's just wonderful that we were able to have that technology available and the staff are comfortable using it to do that.
Steve, you have a question about this? Okay. Please continue.
We'll move on to Bennett. Of course, we're here at Bennett. We talked a little bit yesterday about 450,000 trout a year is what this one can produce. If we have the trout here, we'd be spawning in the fall. That's primarily what we do. We like to have fall spawners and spring spawners, as we talked a little bit about yesterday, to kind of expand the availability of eggs throughout the season. Trout eggs are really interesting too. We can do a lot with temperature. That once we take the eggs, we can set them at different temperature ranges and speed up or slow down the development and how they hatch. So there's a lot they can do with those as well. One thing we do here at Montauk is the other one. A lot of the urban stuff will be coming out of here actually within next week. A lot of the guys, the trucks will come in here and we ship them fish all to a lot of the CAP, the Community Assistance Program lakes around the state. So there's a lot of people that look forward to the 1st of November.
Just a quick question, maybe I missed it, but I know Roaring Rivers, we're not producing down there, but when that's back producing, how many trout a year can we produce there? Did you say that?
And this number is about kind of where they're at on a normal year, would be 250, 300,000.
So I guess I thought that's what it said. I wasn't sure, but if we look at doing something here at Bennett, and we're going to be 200,000 fish short. So, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, that's where we have to put we just have to try to hope for the best and be as efficient as we can. These guys are really good at trying to make fish where we can. We buy a few here and there, but it makes us tight. It really does.
Were we able to buy fish, or what's the instance we're doing that? And
right now,
availability.
I'll talk about it right now.
Okay.
We actually work with. We have a contract that we do every year. I think it's Crystal Lake Fisheries is where we currently get it from, and we buy.
Is that in the state? I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, we buy about 30,000 fish a year there.
Where is it?
I want to say it's Ava. Is that Ava, Missouri?
Is that the one where you buy them by the inch?
No, that's down
Huh?
south of Mountain Road.
You don't buy those?
But we regularly buy about 30,000 fish from that country.
We do. And it's really, as we've come to some of these flooding issues and different things that way, that's really helped us offset those. But the inventory thing, that's something that we are constantly watching. It's a concern. It's always a concern, whether it's from construction, whether it's from high water events. It's something, and that's when we talked about, trying to increase production here and there. That's where we're trying to just get to where we can at least maintain.
Well, and I'm sure you recognize it better than me, but I mean, I didn't realize we produce that many fish here. I mean, you're going to have a more challenging situation than you've had at Roaring River, and I think all of us recognize, they hadn't got back done as quickly as we think. We end up with the same thing here. Wow, you could end up with quite a deal to keep up with.
It is. It's something that we are, I won't say it keeps us up at night yet, but it's close. But it's something like we talked about with the well project that we talked about here, to be able to at least run the building and possibly in some of the raceways here. Well, if we can at least run the building, we can take eggs here, we can get them up to 3 or 4 inches before they go to other facilities. And that's really what we're missing right now at Roaring River. If we'd have known things were going to work out like they had, we likely would have looked to put a well in there so we could at least run their hatchery building that's there. So I feel, there's a lot of unknowns, but I feel like what we're talking about doing here is going to really set us up to be in the best possible position.
It's the interim period that's going to be the challenge for you with taking that. You're going to have 170,000 fish deficit.
It's a lot of juggling.
Is it in full swing?
Roaring River. We can see it, but no, it's not.
It's close. We can see it hanging there, but it's not swinging yet.
Yeah. Oh, you'll be well aware of it.
Continue, please.
And I've kind of spoken to all these areas. We've got the 4 trout parks. We've got our winter trout program, which is our CMP program, and then the Lake Taneycomo, and then the red, white, and blue ribbon areas, which are critically important that is no. We always look for opportunities, but the Fish and Wildlife Service, we work closely with them on, well, our headlanders and different endangered species. And when they look at these, they understand our trout areas, they understand where they're at, but they are not willing to have that discussion on expanding those opportunities.
And why?
Because of concern, interactions with the headlanders, with the Niagara garters, different species.
Okay.
Could I just ask a question on the red ribbon areas? Now, what are our red ribbon areas now that we presently have? Merrimack, Taneycomo, and Current, or is there more than that on the brown trout?
I'd have to look at those, to be honest with you. Honestly, I get them confused.
The reason I was asking that question is, and we eliminated the one on the Ruby recently because of the fishery problem there. But, I keep hearing, and I've experienced it on the Merrimack, it seemed like we're really struggling with that one.
With the brown trout?
Yes, I'm specifically talking brown trout.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and that's something we continue to look at. I know the director had an opportunity to visit with the Ozark fly fishers, and it came up there as well. And I've been in touch with the biologist for that stretch. And, there's a lot of concern. Obviously the flooding events that impact us here, devastate the entire Ozark streams, and there's a lot of habitat change. We're seeing temperature changes, and so we're not really sure what the actual cause is, but we're trying to look at different opportunities to
So we're actively looking at that, trying to figure out something.
Absolutely.
That's been a great fishery in the past.
Yeah, and it's a well-used fishery, and so it's important to us to try to figure out how we can improve that opportunity.
The cobia pods you were talking about earlier, do you think maybe that's an impact on it or something, since that's unique to that?
It's possible, but I don't think so, because the rainbows seem to do fine there, for what I understand. It's just the brown trout that's really the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have a lot of temperature. They like the water a lot colder than what we can really get in a lot of these streams, and I think that's part of the problem. Because like Shepherd is where we do all the brown trout production, their water can actually be too cold for rainbows, because, brown trouts too, because we don't get the growth rates that we really need because the water is too cold. Where here the water would be like in the mid-50s, so we can get a lot more growth on these fish. It really becomes problematic when we have to hold fish at Shepherd for too long a time because we can't get the growth on them that we can here. So we have some wonderful facilities, but they all have their challenges. We talked a little bit about the urban program. We have about 36 Department of CAP lakes that we'll stock every winter. Some of them, it just depends on how they're set up regulation-wise. Some of them you can harvest immediately. Some of them are delayed harvest. So there's lots of different opportunities. From the CAP perspective, right now it's a 50-50 partnership between us and the partner. They buy half the fish, and then we provide the other half. So, I know when I first started with the department, we would always haul up to Kansas City. We had a biologist, Jake Allman. He would always go on the news. And Gene Fox, Commissioner McHenry, you remember him?
Sure do.
We call it the Jake and Gene Show.
Yeah.
And he would go on every morning. We were hauled and tell the truck will be here at this time. We'd pull in, and there'd just be people everywhere.
Yeah, I bet.
So you could get down there, then they'd fill in behind you. And it's very popular, and it's well worth the time and effort, that we put into that. It really brings a lot of people to the sport. We do have a trout plan. It was first written in 2003. We did a status review in 2017, kind of just updating the plan as to where we are. Part of that is the increase in trout permits as we work there, and of course you go on to increase those 7 to 10 on the annual, and then 3 to 4 on the daily here at the parks. And then the pilot program we have going on at Merrimack with the 5 for 5. We are collecting cards, information cards. They buy the tags, they get a little card they can fill out, provide information to us on what they think about the regulations. And so we're anxious to get to the end of the year to kind of see what those cards tell us and how we want to look at regulations here at the parks going forward.
Bruce, what does the annual permit allow you? Because you still have to buy the daily if you fish here.
Right. You have to buy the annual and the daily.
at these streams, at the 5 areas. Otherwise, the annual is good,
The daily at the 4.
the 4.
Yeah, Bennett, Roaring River, Montauk, and Merrimack. The trout permit itself is if you went outside the park into the Niagara River,
Right.
the ribbon area,
Trout fishing.
then you could go there, Canyon Como. So,
If you want to keep, except for Candy Como, you have to have it.
correct,
No.
correct.
Say again, Aaron.
If you want to keep the trout on a white ribbon, blue ribbon, red ribbon, you have to have the trout permit. And then at Candy Como above Fall Creek, just to fish, you have to have the trout permit.
Okay, thank you.
Now we'll kind of move into some renovation work. This is the current state record, brown trout. It was 40 pounds, 6 ounces.
Whoa.
So
That's a trip load.
that's a decent sized fish.
Yeah. It's an ocean fish.
If I remember correctly, that guy actually caught 2.
That's Bill Babler, and I'm trying to remember, I thought his party did, I didn't know.
I think so. I don't remember the
Yeah.
exact.
He caught 2 huge trout.
On what test line, I wonder?
What was 6 pounds?
6 pound test?
So,
Wow.
It took 6 hours, but it was 6 pounds.
Did it really?
I don't know. I mean, it had to take a long
Yeah,
time.
it had to take a long time.
that was one of the 2-hour deals. Like
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, my hands are still sore.
When we think about our renovation projects, you know, we obviously have some important objectives. And first and foremost is increased staff safety. As we talked about here yesterday with our animal safety issues. And there's different things throughout the hatcheries that we can really work on to improve the safety and the health and wellness of our staff, which is critical. We're going to improve production efficiencies. That's where we kind of look at whether we need to spawn fish at all of them, or maybe we can do some more kind of like in the Roaring River. You know, it's more of a, go back to my hog production days, it's more of a feeder pig operation where we get them small and raise them up to finish. System redundancy, that's where we really talk about. We know there's going to be high water events. We know there's potentially bad water events. We've had some issues from time to time at Shepherd's Hills with water coming out of paper rocks that isn't the best quality all the time. And so we know there's going to be those issues. So we have to have a little bit of capacity within the system to be able to handle those and to be able to keep our levels consistent. Biosecurity. It's one of those things we continue to learn more about biosecurity, whether it's DDMO or zebra mussels or and it's just what's the next thing. And it's just we need to stay current on those and make sure we're not part of the problem that's spreading things around the state and in some ways around the country as we have folks come here and then go back home. Some of the current projects, obviously this is Roaring River. The big thing there is we're installing a mechanical screen, a flow meter, and the flow meter is important as these guys are really good about watching. They know exactly how much water they need to have running through the hatchery itself to understand the production needs within each facility. The piping upgrade, and that's kind of what you see in the far right picture there. There's a box that's really up towards the spring itself. If you've been to Roaring River, this is kind of up towards the cave, if you will, where the spring actually comes out of the ground. So that's I don't remember now if it's 42 or 52 inch pipe that's running there. So it's going to be able to bring a tremendous amount of water to us. The picture on the left there, that's a weir gate, which is the last item on the bullet list there. That's the weir gate at the spring itself. Roaring River is interesting in that the spring can be very flashy, and so it can come up and then it can drop. We can use that weir gate then to actually manipulate the water and how much we're actually forcing through the hatchery itself.
So is that the type of system you could possibly install here?
Yeah, not necessarily the weir gate, but the picture on the right there, there's a lot of things in hatcheries that aren't real photogenic. But,
Sure.
That's really that's the screen right there that we would like to put in here. And essentially what that is it'll get you to something that's just like a conveyor.
Yeah.
And the water will flow through it, so that as it pulls leaves and debris, it picks it up, and there's little paddles on there. It's hard to see, but there's paddles on there, and then it'll just pick that up and carry it over and then dump it in the box.
Okay.
And it just eliminates somebody standing there.
Takes away the manual part of it then.
We sure hope. We sure hope.
Did we Did you do a well there?
We did not.
Did not.
We did not.
Did not think you needed one.
I think once we get to this point and we get the go on this, we're gonna be in really good shape. I think,
But wait a minute. I thought we were doing all this.
Once we get Roaring River done,
Oh, okay.
and that project.
But it's under
We're in good shape with
construction
Roaring
right
River.
now.
It's
Right.
almost done. Almost
Right.
done.
almost done. Yeah,
right.
almost done, Steve.
Almost done. Days away.
So the spring would be up here, this would be the pipe, our mechanical
Years
spring's
from now.
actually in the box right there.
I'm not very patient.
Just about finished.
We've added this, and that's another shot of the weir gate, but there's weir gates on the bottom end of the spring pool itself. And I think my understanding is the construction's pretty much done with the exception of the motors in those gates. We've got some issues with them being able to bring the gates up and down. We had the manufacturer on site, we've got a plan in place, and the management staff there is sitting on go. They're just waiting for the word from us to go ahead and move forward. So they are ready. We are ready.
What's holding us back from saying go?
We just need to get these weir gates, because essentially the weir gates, like this one, we can use that to control the water that comes into the hatchery. We have weir gates on the bottom end of the spring pool, that if we can't open and close those, if we get a high water event, we cannot control the water. It would come over into the
Is it
hatchery.
the contractor's fault?
It's just part of our construction that we're working through. And the contractors involved, the
Tell them to pick their
actual,
feet up.
I'll relay that message.
Yeah, please do.
All right.
The commission said, pick your feet up.
Yes, sir. Future projects.
That'll go a long way.
Yeah,
We have a project,
that will help.
we have a project here bottom left, that's intermediate raceways, down in Shepherd of the Hills, some maintenance we need to do on those. Design will be done by the end of the year. The plan is to bid those out early next year, will be construction spring of next year.
This is the way.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question on that? You're doing an intermediate raceway replacement. Now, when I visited with Clint down there, one of the questions I asked him was there available space for increased production in that hatchery? And he said, yes, there was. There was a holding pool area there that we went and looked at. I mean, with us looking at this deficit of fish, if we do Bennett Springs, and we're already doing this intermediate raceway, wouldn't that be a prudent time to do that project in preparation for the Bennett Springs, so we don't have as much of a deficit?
I don't know exactly what he was referring to there. I know we talked about expansion opportunities here at Shepherd. I know that it would likely require more water, so how we would get more water into the hatchery is something we'd have to investigate as well.
I mean, I asked a generic question. That's what I was asking. We were talking about doing the nature center there. I said, when you're doing one project, I didn't realize we were doing an intermediate raceway project. I'm looking at, you're going to have a bigger deficit problem when we do Bennett Springs. If we're already doing a project, the contract's going to be there, if that's available. But I think you have two water sources there. You have an alternative water source at Shepherd, correct?
We have a well, and then we have table.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just know that was my conversation with Clint, and it just.
I mean, it's something we're always looking at investigating and just trying to see. We're always looking for the best available space. So, yeah, it's something. The other picture on the right there, that is the Bennett Springs here. That is the intake. The screen, the individual on the far side of the concrete there with holding the broom, that's where the intake screen. He's actually standing on the intake screen. For safety concerns with staff, because that's how, when they would have high water events, all the leaves and debris would pile up there, so we'd have them actually standing out there on that ledge, essentially scrubbing. And so what we're talking about here is removing that, putting in those mechanical screens like we're talking about. It will be a lot safer for all involved.
And that's just one part of this more comprehensive project.
Absolutely. Honestly, that's kind of where it started. We knew we had a problem here we needed to address. And then as we got in further and further into it, we really want to kind of take a step back and say, if we're going to be here, we need to do it right, rather than this and then turn right around and go, okay, now we can do this. Hatcheries are important and they're expensive, and so we just have to try to time it all out to make best use of it.
Questions?
So Bruce, everything you showed us this morning then is under your purview?
Correct.
So how many staff do you have?
In the hatchery itself, 64, 65 between the warm and the cold water side.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And they are, I will say, they are, whether it's the warm or the cold water, they are a very dedicated group.
Okay.
Probably sometimes to a fault. When there's electrical storms and high water, they make me nervous.
Just, I'm curious, it seemed like all conversations I've heard since I've been on the commission have always been directed towards the cold water hatcheries. Are we in good shape on the warm water hatcheries, or is there issues that we've
been very fortunate on the warm water side. Lost Valley was built, I think it came online in 2000, so it's fairly new. Chesapeake was built in 39, I believe, 1939. It had a major renovation it did in the late 80s. So we've just done a heat pump replacement there. That's where we do all of our catfish, and we're able to warm water, bring them in, get them started early.
Right.
So there's going to be some maintenance issues there. It's got liners, pond liners in it that they go out, keep their life expectancy, so it's something we're going to have to look at in the future. Like Pony, while I was up there, we were in the pilot sturgeon program then, got a lot of funding through the federal government on that program. We've spent a lot of money up there increasing. We redid all of our kettles, all of our harbor structure, all 39 ponds. We've done a whole bunch of piping upgrades, expanded the hatchery building up there. And then Honeywell, we actually went up there and redid a lot of the harvest kettles and structures up there as well. So, there's always things on the hatcheries that need work, but I think for the most part, on the warm water side, we are looking pretty good.
So you wouldn't anticipate in the next 5 years we would have any major construction projects on those?
The pond liners at Chesapeake's going to be something we're going to have to address.
Questions? What do you grow there mostly in the warm water?
Oh, warm water, we do a lot of catfish. We do a lot of hybrid sunfish. We do walleye, Irish striped bass. We do some striped bass. Of course, paddlefish, which is something near and dear to my heart. We do those a lot. But we do a few largemouth bass, a few bluegill, that kind of thing for the department lakes.
Okay. You do the CAP program from there too?
We do a lot of the catfish. We come through Lost Valley. We have a special contract. So
why? Ask him why.
Buy a lot of those fish. There comes to Lost Valley.
Okay.
Now, smallmouth, why are we doing smallmouth?
We don't do smallmouth.
Why?
Well, I think it's something that years ago they tried, and it just never seemed to take off that smallmouth would respond well to stocking, and we feel like the populations are naturally reproducing and doing well enough that I don't think adding them from the hatchery would really improve much to what's out there at the natural.
Do you see, if we spend all the money here that we're talking about, do you see an increase in production? We're doing 450,000 now. Any way to increase that?
Until we get into it and really see how the efficiencies we can gain, it's really hard for me to sit here and say we can. I think we want to increase to the point where we have that buffer level, kind of like we talked about. So the system itself has enough to be able to handle high water events and things like that, because that's when we really have most of our fish loss.
I think we're talking about, what, $20 million?
20
$20 million.
over
So
3 years.
we're growing 450,000 trout a year. That's a lot of money per trout when you start dividing that out. We need to look at being able to do more. In that process, and I know you are.
No, we absolutely are, and that's one of the things that I've always already challenged the guys I work with to see where are we going to gain efficiencies from here, and primarily it starts at Roaring River. Once we get that one back, we've always had brood fish there, And we've had root fish at all the facilities, and is that where we need to be? Can we not have root fish at all those and be able to bring other fish in there, and what does that do to our capacity? So I think, and it's not even just the production side, it's also staffing levels, is we have to look at what do these improvements do to our needs. Now, I don't want you all to think we're giving up positions here, but we just want to make sure we have them where we need them to be best efficient.
How long have we worked on Roaring River?
I think, if I recall correctly, we started October of 2018 is when the notice to proceed was given on that contract.
Okay, we'll look forward to another date.
I look forward to bringing you back.
Thank you. We're
Not to
gonna take
keep
a 15
aggravating the
minute
topic, but
recess.
in
15
October of
minutes.
2018, how long were we told it was going to take to do the project then?
Well, and part of that was problematic because we were, the mechanical screen was actually the biggest drawback, if you will, because we had to work through an outside supplier to be able to have it. A lot of the timeline was contingent upon, when that screen was.
But at the time, what was the commission told was going to be the time frame? Do you remember?
I'm not even sure.
And the reason I'm asking the question, I think we're all, when we enter into this one, get into the same deal except exponentially maybe, because this is a bigger project.
No, I agree.
You know, and so that's just, then you cut out the 450,000 fish, and then, boy.
Well, and I think, like we talked about a little bit yesterday, I think that the Roaring River situation is different, just the way the hatchery sets. We can't get away from the water. When the water's there, there's no way to get it out of the way. Whereas here, we can put up things to kind of divert the water. And once we shut the intake off, like all those raceway replacements and things we talked about, we can do that. I mean, unless it's high enough that it's coming over the levels, we shouldn't have a problem there. At least that's my hope.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Very thorough.
To do, places to go and people to see. You're right.
Just a troublemaker.
No.
We just need to get
It's okay to stir the pot. It's okay to stir the pot.
If you don't, everybody just sits
It all
and
gets,
doesn't
it
want.
settles for the bottom.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
That was on 15, but we're back. Andrew, tell us about the financial report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Director Quality, and of course, Ron Russell. I will be presenting item 5 on your agenda, fiscal year 21 financial summary report for the first quarter. The report has been provided. Please direct your attention first to the revenue trends shown on page 4 of the report. Total revenues through September 2020 were 27.5% higher than this time last year and 26.5% above expectations at this point in the fiscal year. Conservation sales tax receipts were 7.5% above the same time period in FY 20 and 10.9% above expectations.
Could you repeat that on the sales tax?
I certainly could. Sales tax receipts were 7.5% above the same time period in fiscal year 2020, same first quarter of the year.
Thank you.
I will tell you that they have started to decline. I'm cautiously optimistic that we will have a positive year, but I would not have anticipated this level of growth. So currently, as of revenues from yesterday, state sales tax cumulative for FY21 were 0.9% above FY20. And for the conservation sales tax, as of yesterday, we were 6.3% above this time last year. Permit revenues were 37.9% higher in the first quarter of FY21 compared to FY20 and 25.2% above expectations. Number of monetary hunting and fishing permits sold in the first quarter of fiscal year 21 were 108,058 higher than the previous year. In addition to the increased permit sales, restructuring of permit prices for non-resident and trout account for some of the increased revenue compared to FY20. As a side note, and it's probably not a surprise to anyone, sales from electronic means, internet and mobile, have increased 46% in the first quarter compared to 20, while traditional forms, vendor, and phone sales have decreased. So that puts us at 61% of our sales are from electronic means, compared to last year at 48%. Obviously, the pandemic, a lot of people are using electronic means. Federal reimbursements were 118.6% higher than this time last year and 96.4% above expectations. Claims for federal reimbursement last fiscal year are really the cause for this comparison to be much larger than normal. Timing of federal claims, specifically on the Pittman-Robertson grant, were more timely in this first quarter of this year compared to FY20. Other revenues sources for the first 3 months of fiscal year 21 were 18.7% lower than this time last fiscal year and 16.1% below expectations. If there are any questions on revenues, I'll turn to expenditures. Total operating.
If I could, I would tell the commissioner, look at the federal reimbursement. If you look at fund balance, you can see why that grade increases at points because of the influx of that kind of funds coming to it. Please continue.
Total operating expenditures for the first quarter of fiscal year 21 were 1.4% lower than the first quarter of fiscal year 20. 13.7% below expectations. Operating expenditures include personal services, expense, and equipment purchases. Personal service disbursements were 2% below this point in the last fiscal year and 8.2% lower than expected through September 2020. Expenses were 30.1% lower than this point in the last fiscal year and 32.3% below expectations. Expenses including travel, fuel, and supplies were lower in the first quarter of FY20 compared to first quarter of 21 compared to fiscal year 20, likely attributable to office closures, teleworking caused by the COVID-19 restrictions. In addition, timing of certain payments with partners caused some of the variance from 20 to 21.
Prior to leaving that, capital is up like 12%, or 5.3. Where did that go, Jennifer?
It would have gone to multiple projects. So we had really good late summer, early fall construction. So we've been moving a lot of construction.
That comes out.
Mm-hmm.
There it is.
It's in the handouts.
Those are planned expenditures in our capital program.
Okay, let me pose a question to you then. We budgeted 3.2 million. Last year, you spent 5.3. Where did it come from?
Our revenues are meeting the need at this point in time. So what we budget for the whole year, yes, we're ahead of what we prorate kind of the monthly spend for construction.
Very good.
We're not ahead of what we would or what's been budgeted.
So on a yearly basis, this year, you think you'll come in about where you budgeted?
I'm always hopeful. I know you guys got we experienced same weather yesterday, but yes, if everything holds together and we've got a good construction year, yes.
Okay. I'm going to get your signature.
One of the reasons is, the improvements or the replacement of the pump station at Fountain Grove, that was approved as a major one-time that would have gone against any excessive reserve.
Yeah.
But because we've got the difficulties there with that project, we are not spending at Fountain Grove. So there's a little bit of an unknown with that.
On when that will restart, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Please continue.
Expenses were 30.1% lower than this point last fiscal year and 32.3% below expectations. Equipment disbursements were 690.9% higher than the first quarter of FY20 and 10.7% above expectations. The variance in expenditures for equipment is due to the final payment of the replacement of the helicopter made in July compared to the previous year. In addition, some equipment replacements delayed FY20 due to the COVID restrictions and manufacturing slowdowns. Some of those equipment purchases that were made in FY20 were received in 21 and paid for in 21. Total capital disbursements were 74.6% higher than the previous fiscal year through September and 63% above the budgeted amount at this point in the fiscal year. Capital expenditures including land conservation partnerships and construction. Timing of some of the construction projects, as we just discussed, caused higher expenditures compared to FY20. Total disbursements for the first quarter of fiscal year 21 were 4.1% higher than the first quarter of FY20 and 8.5% below expectations. That concludes my remarks on the first quarter of FY20.
Questions?
It looks good.
Yep.
Very good, sir. Appreciate it. Moving right along, we've taken care of this.
She can give a very quick update.
Okay. You want to give a very quick update on Shepherd of the Hills?
Sure. We reported in August that we were about 10% through the completion of the design. Yes, I can. So the commission had asked about an update on our Shelter of the Hills. In August, we were about 10% through the design process. As the commission might recall, prior to several of our new commissioners being on board, we had an initial design there that would have significantly expanded the visitor center at Shelter of the Hills. And given all the other responsibilities we had in the infrastructure portfolio, we took another look at that. The commission decided we wanted to go with something that more closely aligned with the current footprint that we had to try to reduce the expenditures that we would have. So it did require almost a complete redesign of that project. One of the issues, I guess, that we're having, we do have to go through a what we call a qualified professional services contract for some of that design work. And so we're working through that process with the Office of Administration, and then our architect, who needs to finish up some, I would say, I'm not going to get the right word, but he's got he's got to finish some detailed work on that, along with our electrical and mechanical engineer before we can finish that process. He's been providing construction oversight, the architect has been, for the Southeast Regional Office construction. So that project, high priority project. We had staff that had been displaced for quite some time down in the Southeast region, so as he wraps that project up, his time becomes more available. He'll be able to allocate time to the Shepherd Hills. But we're still on track to start construction of that in fiscal year 22. So we hope to have all of that process wrapped up by the end of this fiscal year, and would start construction in fiscal year 22. So that's where we are.
When will we bid? When can we go out for bids?
Hopefully early, I'll say late next summer. So we get to July 1, we should be going out for bid shortly after the first of the fiscal year.
And tell me what transpires from now to July.
What transpires from now to July, we'll finish the design process and get it into the pipeline for the projects that need to be bid. So I can provide the commission with a list of projects that are kind of ahead of that one, that everyone out the door to be bid as well. That might be more appropriate.
I think that would be very appropriate to understand that
Where it is,
we have now.
Where it is in that process.
Yeah, and my question is, how much of this is in-house and how much of this is contract work?
I will have to get back to you on that.
Okay. I think that's, and I know you touched on a couple things as far as the components, so I think that's a question that would come up. And then the only other follow-up is, how many square feet is the building that we are designing?
The design for the expansion was 7,000 square feet, and I think we're closer to 2 to 3, but I need to.
Okay. Okay. All right.
2 to 3,000? 2 to 3,000 feet?
I think so, but I need to confirm that. Like I said, the redesign was about 7,000 square feet, and we
shrunk it.
reduced that significantly.
That's not very big, is it?
No.
No, as Aaron said, it's about this size. We're just reconfiguring the space and making it more visitor friendly and staff.
Okay.
And getting it more of a nature center kind of thing. Right now, it feels like a room that's like this, but it'll have exhibits and kind of staffing.
For 60 days.
So right now, we're in the design phase.
That's correct.
Okay.
The redesign phase.
The redesign phase.
Okay. Do we have an outside architect, or is this inside?
Our inside architect will oversee
Right.
the work of an outside architect, and that's why we're having to go through this quality.
Yeah,
control
you're going to do an RFQ is what you're going to do.
That's just a couple of questions. And how does that compare in square footage to our other nature centers? I mean, I know I saw Twin Pines, and it seemed like a lot bigger than that.
They all are, yes. They would be
Significantly smaller.
Yeah.
It's significant.
But it's a visitor center, not a nature center.
And people come to see the fish. They're not coming to see necessarily the nature
Exhibits.
center. They're coming to see the fish, and I think that's an important distinction too.
Well, and the reason I'm asking, I've talked about it obviously, because I was asking some numbers on where we're getting the most bang for our buck. And if I remember correctly, of all the combined nature centers, we had about 450,000 visits a year, of which 250,000 of them were down there. and so, and I know you corrected me and said, no, a lot of people are coming to look at the hatchery, but, the reason it's been on my radar is I'm just looking at how much the public are seeing what we're doing for the public. And that's what got my attention to it. And so, boy, it sure seemed like an awful small facility for that number of people coming through, because if there's 250,000 people coming through to look at the fish in the hatchery, they're going to go through the building. Because I know when I went and visited, every person that went to look at the hatchery went through the building. So, I mean, that's just a kind of I guess a hillbilly observation of what I was seeing,
And I think there was a trade-off there. We have, most of our conservation areas, we've got a lot of trails and outside things that they can do as well. And we're not looking at doing the same kind of programming. I think initially we thought we might do some of the same kind of programming at Shepherd Hills, but we're not doing the same kind of, skills and education programs in an indoor kind of situation like we do at the nature center. So knowing again what we have already that need to take care of in all of our nature centers, many of them have exhibits that need to be reworked or areas that need to be reworked. We're just trying to keep, the focus for folks when they go to Shepherd of the Hills, like Sarah said, is to feed the fish and see how the hatchery operations work. They do come into the building, and we can give them a great history lesson and give them a lot of good takeaway points about all the fantastic work that the department does, not just with fish hatcheries, but with conservation across the state.
So, did I understand you said it would probably go up for bid next August or a year from next August? What did you say? Next July. Okay.
The start of fiscal.
July of 2021.
That's correct.
And we're talking about renovating the existing building.
Essentially, yes.
Correct.
And it's going to take, I want to be sure I understand this, it's going to take us from now to July to be able to bid that out,
Yes, sir.
or to do the design.
I will get a firmer date on when the design will be complete after we've got through the GPS process. But as long as our architect right now that's assigned to this project is finishing up the Southeast Regional Office and the Discovery Center can be replaced. He's got two big projects that are in the works right now. So again, we have many, many projects that are in the pipeline, and this, we've got to get through things before we can. And we have only two architects working for the department, and those two architects, I think, between the two of them, have about 8 projects that they're responsible.
8 or 80?
80. Every renovation that involves, our staff or people coming in or out, requires those folks to take a look at it, to make sure we're getting the right, following code compliance, we're getting what the department should be getting out of whatever contracted work we're doing. So I'm more than happy to share the list of projects that both of those architects are working on. And I will also remind you that we went probably over a year with only one architect on staff. We do have trouble recruiting architects to state government work.
What is involved in hiring an outside architect?
We have to go through the qualified professional services contracting process, and that is required by statute.
Okay, so if we want to, let's just think outside the box for a minute and say we have a building here that we want to renovate. So that's my phone, don't pay any attention. Somebody's going to answer. We have to go to hell and back just to be able to go hire an architect to say, go do this.
Well, we have to go through a process.
Yeah, okay. How long does that process take?
It very often takes about, I'm going to say, at least 9 months. At least
9 months?
Very often it does. Yes.
What do we have to do to change that?
That would be state statute.
That's what I'm
And
saying.
more capacity.
Then why isn't our legislative team looking to get something like that changed? This is ridiculous to say that we have 250,000 people going through that place, and we can't even go to bid on renovating the building or hiring an architect.
Again, some of that is not necessarily, it's not just the process, it also is that we have one architect in the department
Right.
to oversee that process.
I
Because.
build, let me explain something. If I say, okay, I'm gonna build a new 120-bed nursing home in Joplin, I get an architect like Larry Nelson in Springfield, I say, Larry, here's what I want. I work with him, takes about 60 days, and I've got the property and I'll start building. And I'll have that thing built before we can even hire an architect. Am I
And public
understanding?
works projects are very different than private projects.
Understand that.
Different set of rules.
But
Would it be helpful, next commission meeting, to, number one, yeah. Would it be helpful next commission meeting to, A, see the schedule, try to get a better schedule, kind of month-by-month schedule on this particular project? B, see the other list of projects that are currently ahead of this project in the pipeline. And perhaps we can, I mean, if the commission feels like this one needs to bump another one, then we can talk about that, but it might be helpful to better understand kind of month by month how this is scheduled out. Is that,
yes,
I don't know
it
if
would be
that'd be
very helpful.
Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, I think the other issue that just we need to think about is, you know, if a commission, if we have a plan which was approved 2 years ago, what's the cost to change that plan? And what's the time frame to change that plan? So my point is, be very careful when you make a change to something that you've already researched. You have your architects drawing it up already, it's approved, you're ready for the carpenters to start pounding nails, and then you change it, there's a cost and there's a time frame that you've just blown all apart.
this would be the third change, and I think that's part of the issue, is that we've already gone through a significant change.
Yeah,
to
so,
Jennifer's
you
point.
know,
Yeah, the first design was for a smaller facility.
it'd be interesting to know what the cost so far is that's just going to be put in the toilet.
Yep, we can share that.
Good
We will make
point.
sure we have that information for the next commission meeting.
Mark?
Yeah, and, you know, maybe it sounds like we're going to do a little deep dive into this discussion, is that right? Okay. And so I won't get off on that now, but I will say, and this is where I think I know a little bit about this, and I understand government process, I understand it very well in public process, and I know the state does not actually operate the same as a big city operates, but there's a lot of commonality in that, from requirements to that. And having experience in that and hiring architects, and I work for an engineering firm as I sit here today, so I know it pretty well. And there again, whether it's architects or engineers or contractors and requirements for prevailing wage and minority women participation, all that stuff has to factor into this, and it's a protocol. So I think if we do a deep dive into this, and I know you don't want to hear this, but I did go out with an RFQ back in May to hire an architect to do an 11,000 square foot building renovation. It took him 60 days to design it. So we went in to design about the first part of June. They designed it during the month of June and July. We went into construction. We started construction about the third week of August, and they'll be done by Thanksgiving.
I believe that absolutely. Again,
Yeah.
some of the problem we've had is just getting this design to.
I understand.
Through the QBS system.
I understand,
Through the
yeah.
QBS process,
Right.
because our architect has not been available
Right.
to do that work. He's
Okay.
just not been available.
Okay, I understand. I'm just giving an example. So, okay. But I think the deep dive is more important.
Yeah, the deep dive's more important, and maybe if there's other projects that take a back burner, but it's always a good reminder, I think, for the commission to understand the number of projects we've got on the plate.
Yeah, it's a lot of, thank
Okay,
you.
so we have 80 projects.
That require our architects
Yeah,
oversight, yes.
okay. But we're serving 250,000 people down there. I think that this thing should elevate itself on the priority list. My own personal feeling, I'm speaking for all the commissioners, but we're having a lot of discussion on getting this thing over and done with.
Yes.
I go off the commission in 2022. I'd like to at least hear a hammer down there before that happens.
We will
Okay.
make sure that we come back with that list
Thank you.
for the next
In
commission
December.
meeting. Yeah.
At the December meeting, is that sufficient, gentlemen?
I mean, it has been. Yes, very much so.
Only meeting left this year, Thanks,
Jennifer,
Jennifer.
thank you
Thanks,
for
Jennifer.
that. Hey, and for getting in the hot seat,
Sure,
you know, that's why
it's fun.
you make so much.
Fair enough.
The next item happens to be the last item, and it happens to be the most important item on this agenda.
We approve the minutes.
So at this point in time, Mike, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you,
Using the
Mr.
consent
Chairman.
calendar.
I assume you're not talking about consent calendar. Good morning again, Commissioners. The Master Conservationist Award honors living or deceased citizen conservationists, former conservation commissioners, and employees of conservation-related agencies who have made substantial and long-lasting contributions to the fisheries, forestry, or wildlife conservation efforts of our state. To be eligible for consideration or recognition, an individual nominated must be or have been a member of the Missouri conservation community who meets at least one of the following criteria. A citizen who performed outstanding acts or whose dedicated service over an extended period resulted in major progress in fisheries, forestry, and wildlife conservation in Missouri. Or two, an employee of a conservation-related government agency who performed outstanding acts or whose dedicated service over an extended period resulted in major progress in fisheries, forestry, or wildlife conservation. Or three, a former conservation commissioner who provided outstanding leadership and direction as a commissioner and demonstrated outstanding acts as a citizen in the conservation of our resources. Today, it is my great honor to highlight the important conservation work of not one, but two very special individuals, Tom and Kathy Lee. As Deputy Director of Resource Management for the Department, I meet many people dedicated to the work of conservation. This morning, we have a rare opportunity to honor two individuals who have devoted their lives to the protection of Missouri's natural resources while engaging in a multitude of others to learn about and value these resources as well. Tom and Kathy Ailey have been national frontrunners in cave and karst research, conservation, and education for the last 45 years. Since their marriage in 1975, the Aileys have been involved in all things underground. In 1966, which happened to be the year I was born, you know how long ago it was. Tom Ailey purchased land above Tumbling Creek Cave in eastern Taney County for the sole purpose of establishing the Ozark Underground Laboratory and Research Field Station. Since that time, Tom and Kathy have dedicated their lives to protecting cave and karsts with a strong focus on education. For the last 4 decades, the Alleys have conducted and consulted on hydrological studies of cave and karst systems across the globe. Much of their innovative work has become standard practice in the field of dye tracing, and their services have been contracted by the U.S. Forest Service, National Park Service, our very own Department of Conservation, and other state, counties, and municipalities. In addition to their professional successes, Tom and Kathy have invested a significant amount of time and resources to protecting the cave and karst features on their personal property. With over 115 species calling the cave home, including federally endangered snails and bass, Tumbling Creek Cave is the most biodiverse cave west of the Mississippi River and was designated National Natural Landmark in 1981. The Alleys have conducted over 60 groundwater traces to delineate the cave's 9 square mile recharge area, linking important surface features to the health of the cave. Over the course of the last half century, Tom and Kathy have acquired and restored over 3,500 acres of land in the recharge area. And in 2004, they established the Tumbling Creek Cave Foundation to ensure the protection of the cave and associated lands into the future. Despite their many contributions to cave and karst research and protection and countless conservation practices they have implemented on lands within Tumbling Creek Cave recharge area, Tom and Kathy would probably say their most important work has been their educational efforts. Beginning in the 1960s, Ozark Underground Laboratory and later the Tumbling Creek Cave Foundation have provided field trips for students and professionals on the surface and into the cave. To date, the Alleys have provided over 2,000 educational field trips. They have also hosted numerous graduate students who have conducted research in and around the cave area. Tom and Kathy have made incredible contributions in the field of cave research, hydrology, karst education, and land stewardship. They truly exemplify what it means to be a master conservationist. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to our chairperson, Mr. Don Bedell, to make a few remarks.
Thank you, Mike, and what a pleasure to be able to present this to you today. You know, as chairman of the Conservation Commission and as a member of the commission, we have a chance, as you saw today, part of it, to try to shape conservation and to take care of the public and to preserve our forest, fish, and wildlife. And the commitment of the commission, as much as they are committed to doing that, you people have gone above and beyond because you put your money where your mouth is. So it's indeed a pleasure on behalf of the commission to make a presentation to Tanya and Kathy today. If you'd please come up, we'd love to do that.
Wow.
Kathy, you get on this side. There's no room. Okay, we'll go.
Is that,
Oh, sorry.
We need to get it away from the glare.
Yeah.
is that your cave?
Okay, so we can.
You need to get out of the way.
We're gonna do it
Just turn
after.
the projector off.
Yeah, great job, Jenny.
Okay. Are you taking a photo? Okay, then I need you to look over here. Okay.
Is that your cave?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you.
Tom, we would invite you and Kathy to the microphone if you would like to say a few words. And again, on behalf of the commission, thank you for your dedication.
Well, thank you very much. The way Kathy and I divide our work is she does the work, I do the talking.
I like that.
So I have a few comments I would like to make. We come at doing this work with professional backgrounds that prepared us to do it. I hold BS and MS degrees in forestry, University of California, Berkeley. Kathy is an aquatic biologist with a master's from Wichita State. Kathy was one of the first 3 females hired by Kansas Fish and Game as a biologist. Well, that gives us a good background in trying to do some of the things that we have been able to do over the years with our operation. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Tumbling Creek cave snail. The Tumbling Creek cave snail is very small. It is smaller than the smallest diamond any jeweler would ever set in an engagement ring, and that's damn small. It is probably, it's a federally listed endangered species. It is probably the smallest animal on the federal endangered species list. It lives only in the cave stream and related waters. of Tumbling Creek Cave. Only. We control all the habitat. The population in mid-1970s, we had a census done, was about 15,000. When it became listed in about 2000 or 2001 as an endangered species, the population was down to about 150.
Whoa.
That's a 99% decline. Multiple reasons for the decline, but the basic problem is people and the impacts they have on caves. Caves are probably the most endangered habitats we have in the state of Missouri. Why should that be? Well, I think it is because of a number of factors. First, very low energy ecosystems. It doesn't take much to upset a low energy ecosystem. Secondly, the animals we have in a low energy system, you have very few animals to begin with. And their rate of reproduction typically is much lower than surface counterparts. So if you have anything go wrong, it takes a much longer time to recover than you expect from other things. What kind of human activities impact these things? Well, water pollution is one problem. We're also private landowners, so right now I'm going to switch hats and I'll wear my private landowner hat. Endangered species are a tremendous asset to the property we have. A faulty public perception is that endangered species are a liability for landowners. Not at all. In our experience, we provide habitat for 4 federally listed species. That's pretty unique. Leo and Kay Dry, maybe when they had 100,000 acres of land, rivaled us. We have that on the first piece of property that we owned, which was 125 acres. We have that many because, again, caves are very limited habitats and very much threatened. But let me get back to the water pollution issue. Our local school is the Mark Twain School. It's preschool through grade 8. Counting the staff, the teachers, and all the kids on a typical day, it's 70 people. It's the primary social center for Pro Tem. And you're probably looking at 4 or 6 or 8% of the population of Pro Tem right here at Bendix Spring today. The sewage lagoon they had at the school was terrible. It did not work properly. It should have been 1.5 acres or so. Instead, the puddle of sewage that came out of the school was the size of the room we're gathered in. And it was going in the ground and coming through our cave. If we reported that to DNR, DNR would have to cite the school. And if the school were cited, they don't have the money to fix it. This is not a rich community. The school would have to close. The kids going to that school, a typical kid has ridden the bus 45 minutes each way going to school. If you had to close the school, then they're going to have to take another bus ride to go to Forsyth, and that's another 45 minutes each way. That's a total of 3 hours riding the bus per day for kids, preschool through grade 8, and I don't think you learn very much riding the school bus for 3 hours a day. So we did not report it to DNR. When the snail became listed, I talked with Department of Conservation and got a preliminary commitment of $20,000 to help. I went to the principal of the school and said, you have a problem, I may have a solution. And I explained about the sewage, and he said, your timing is good. I seldom hear that. Your timing is good.
I've never heard it.
Yeah. Well, we don't contract for things at fish hatcheries and things like that, so our timing can be good. And he said, we've just been nailed in a health department inspection, and our whole sewage system has got to be replaced. We're afraid we're going to have to close the school. And I said, well, I've got a tentative commitment of $20,000 from Department of Conservation. Let's see if we can use the snail as leverage to get the money we need. Bottom line, the new system is great. It cost $89,000, and none of that came out of school money. None of it. Is the snail an asset or a liability? I have had 4 college classes in economics, and I believe the snail is an asset.
No question.
That is not the public perception. But it is certainly an asset to our community, and it's been an asset to us. Thank you very much for this award. We very much appreciate it, and I would invite members of the commission, come down and see our cave, see what we're doing. I think we're doing some pretty interesting and pretty exciting things, but I would also like you to think about the extreme risks that cave environments are facing from human activity and how sensitive they are. Global climate change is a particularly severe one. The cave animals, unlike surface animals, cannot really move. As the climate changes and the environment to which they were adapted moves, they cannot move. They are stuck there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom and Kathy, and the very best to you. Thank you for your commitment and the financial contribution that you make toward that. We appreciate it, and we're here to help work with you. Any other business? Anyone have a commitment to make? Anyone have anything to say?
No, just motion to adjourn.
Brilliant.
This has been a very good
Great meeting.
Thank you, members of the commission.
Very good meeting. Thanks to the staff. We appreciate it. Meeting adjourned.
Yes, Ms. Rhonda.
Yeah, Ms.